Hi everyone, welcome to part 2 of Rosehips and Berries. So in this second part, we're going to basically finish off the rosehip with dusting. It's all finished except for the dusting, then assemble. And then we're going to add some little details on the berries and then move on to assemble those and color them and assemble. So let's get started. Now we're going to enhance the rosehip with some color, also a little bit of shading on the hip, and also glaze the hip itself, because obviously it's going to be very shiny when it's at this stage. Now we're going to start off. I'm going to use, first of all, color called aubergine. So it's like an eggplant color. All right. So we call, some countries it's called eggplant, some countries it's called aubergine. So I've used this color, for example, on the chrysanthemum. Now when you do this on all three of them at the same time. Now what we're going to do is we're going to use the aubergine, and I'm going to just brush a sort of an accent, like a little bit, usually about halfway round, sort of mostly just don't load too much color on the brush, but it's going to give it like a highlight. It would be a little bit like, for example, when you have an apple, you know, you have a sort of green apple, you have a little bit of red on there. So just does that sort of around about halfway, and you do that on the second one and the third one. And of course then you can take your aubergine color and you can put that mostly back in the pot. We're going to use a little tiny bit of that, so just need a little bit for some highlight once you've done the brown. And then I'm going to use some, this is chocolate brown with corn starch, just real pale. All right, there'll be a little sample of that so you can sort of match it. So just add enough corn flour or cornstarch to your chocolate brown. And what we're going to do is going to brush that on both sides about 2/3 of the way down on the calyx, because you want this sort of dry look. So you're going to come about 2/3 of the way down with the brown. You do the same also on the inside as well. All right. And then we're going to take a little bit of chocolate brown. So then we're going to use the brown full strength. I'm just going to put just a touch of that just at the base there, really at the top of the hip. So just underneath where the calyx is, we're just going to put the brown. And also just a little bit at the bottom here. So really right at where the stem meets the, just have a little bit of chocolate brown on that green stem. And finally, we're just going to go back to the aubergine color. Have hardly no color on the brush, and just going to brush a little bit of the sort of the eggplant color, just where those, just on the almost the edge where you have those little tiny cuts. It just gives that a little bit of color. All right, like that. Okay. And of course, you know, when you do this, you've got 3 of them to do. So do all of your aubergine and all of your pale chocolate, then your chocolate, and then your aubergine on the top. Okay. Now, once we've finished that, we're going to change out to your steamer. So we're bringing our steamer now. Now for air drying clay, as we've discussed in last month's project, with air drying clay, you would just go ahead and spray this generously with hairspray, unscented hairspray. So if this was air drying clay, this will be done with unscented hairspray. And then what you're going to do is you're going to glaze it for this, because it wants to be shiny. You can use nail polish, clear nail polish. So you just brush that over your hip, all right? Or you can also use, like I use this a lot, the Sculpey product. This is the satin version, but Sculpey do a gloss glaze, all right? So it's gloss instead of a satin gloss. So you could do that, or you could use the satin one and do 2 coats, all right? Now we wouldn't use spray lacquer on this for the sugar one, because obviously the actual calyx is dried, all right? But you will put the glaze. So you steam that sort of all over. And then what we do is we're then going to brush that. So we're then going to brush this with the confectioner's glaze. So this is full strength glaze. And again, if you only have just a diluted glaze, or what is sometimes called the leaf glaze, you can use 2 coats of that. All right. So you know, sometimes we do, but this is confectioner's glaze, and I'm going to use this and what I'm going to do, I'm going to brush this over this. Now I'm going to brush from the top down. All right, so I'm just going to brush from the top down and then bring. And the reason we steam this, that sort of sets the powder, but you see how you get this nice shade in then on the actual little hip. Now just brush that on a napkin, and then you won't put that sort of potentially the little bit of color that's going to be on there back into your glaze, all right? And so that will go, and then that's just going to dry for a moment, and we'll be ready to assemble these. So I'm going to take one of my ones where the calyx is down, and two the same, about a third of the way down the wire, okay? And then what I'm going to do is just going to bend that slightly forward, all right? Then I'm going to take the other one that is the same like that, going to stagger that, and that's going to bend forward as well. So you can just sort of move them so you get your shade in. All right, so you see that one, so it's about a third of the way down this one, and I'm about a quarter of the way down that one. So we'll just put them together so that they sort of sit there. Now I'm going to take, these are the wires, these are three 20 gauge wires, full length. Remember, because this arrangement is a sort of tall, sort of quite open arrangement, we want everything on long wires, all right, for the fact that we're putting it into a container. But of course, you know, when you do these again, you can do them on a smaller scale. So you're going to take put these on, and then you're just going to just tape those. All right, so that's they will go like this. So you just want to just, where they meet, I'm going to go down, and I'm going to come down about 5 centimeters, about 2 inches. Then I'm just going to go up. So just sort of giving you a smooth and down. All right, so you're down, up and down. So you've done three parts there. All right, and then this is the open one. So that is going to go, again, I'm going to go about a third of the way down here. And I will have that there like that. All right, just be a little bit careful of your calyx, and especially, you know, if you're working with classic gum paste, flour paste. You're just going to come down. So what you're going to do is you're going to come down to the end of the wires, obviously from the rose hips, 3 rose hips. You're going to come up. You're going to come down. We don't texture this because obviously a rose stem is sort of more of a smooth stem. We're just going to group this together. And then I'm just going to use the floral tape just to sort of come down to the bottom. Now, like on the other projects, so for example, the Chinese lantern and the obviously autumn cosmos, they were on long wires. You can just sort of bend that wire so it's not quite as long, all right? Because again, if you put it full length into a block, especially with sugar, air drying clay is a lot lighter, but with sugar ones, you obviously have to think about the weight factor. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into there with a little bit of foliage green and some brown. So I'm going to use just a little bit of foliage green. So this is the green we use for the stamens. And I'm just going to brush a little bit of foliage green just on the stems of the rose hips. And then I would use a little bit of brown, so full strength brown, just lightly, because it's going to just give you that sort of more those sort of autumn tonal colors. And then the main stem will have a little bit of lead brown, but just as I say, it's fairly light here. It doesn't, that's why we wouldn't be using chocolate brown, but just going to give you a little bit of brown color onto there. All right, so that sort of gives you the color in. And then of course we would do the final steam because we want to just set the powder on the stems. And then again, for air drying clay, you just would spray the whole thing with unscented hairspray, all right? Because just remember, steam is used for sugar or starch-based paste, all right, or sugar paste based paste. And then for air drying clay, we use unscented hairspray. All right, and that will give you a beautiful rose hips. So these will be ready to go into the container. Now for the simple berries, we're going to use a food art pen, but for craft, if you're doing air drying clay, you can just use a fine marker. So this is many companies have this. This is a rainbow dust one. Obviously this is the really, really fine end, but this is just like a normal sort of marker, but like a Sharpie type of pen could be used. And if you don't have one of these, even on sugar ones, you can use a regular pen because you're not going to eat these because they've got wires in them. All right, so what I'm going to do here, I'm going to use the pen, and so you just work from the middle and you're just going to create like a little star, okay? So just where your 5 lines are, you're just going to bring the black pen out there to get the little lines, okay? It doesn't have to be perfect, but it's just going to give you a little bit of like the black on the top there, okay? And once you've done that, I'm going to put this together. We're just going to use half width brown. So in the directions, we're going to put it in a group of 3, a group of 5, and a group of 7. So you just take the 3 berries, all right, like this, and naturally where they meet, so think of them almost like cherries, just on that very bottom part here. This is just about, as I said, 3/4 of an inch, okay, about 15-20 millimeters. So just a little bit where they meet, and then again you're going to do the same on the other ones because we want to have them so that you can open them out. So, sorry, just checking on your berries here. We're just going to be putting them on the berries here, and the 4, 5, and 7. Sorry, I forgot. That's right. So this one should have 4. Okay. So 4, 5, and 7, and that will use up obviously your berries that you have. So remember, just almost group them so they're going to be at the same sort of level. Okay. And then, but you're going to hold them right at the end of the wire because that's really where you're going to tape them. Now remember, these ones were on 28 gauge wire because we want these to be a little bit more standing up. You can just open these up, all right? So just open them up like this. And then we're going to take just a little bit of accents. I'm going to use color called deep purple, all right? So, you could use like a darker, like an aubergine color here, but I'm just using just like a contrast color. And this is going to just give you this little bit of purple because again, when this is steamed and glazed, so you're just going to put like a little highlight, not the same place on each one, but just like a little highlight of the purple here. It's easy to do that once you've assembled it, but I found it easier to do the pen before you assemble these. Okay, so the purple, this will just give, under the glaze, will just give like a little accent color under the glaze, all right? So a little bit of the purpley color on there. So of course, depending on what color you're making these berries, you can do many different color variations. So we've got these done. Next, I'm going to show you how we assemble these, and then again, we're going to glaze them. So we're going to start off in your checklist. You've got 3 22 gauge full length wires, white or green, doesn't matter. So on the end, about 5 centimeters, about 2 inches from the wire, I'm going to start off and I'm going to come up to the top, go past the end, all right? So you're going to create almost like a sort of the end of the branch. This is just twisted floral tape. And then you're going to then turn it around and then going to go down. So this will be, so go up and then down, all right? And then you can almost like cut that at a slight angle with your scissors. So it will be like a little, just almost like a little natural branch. So it's not just finished wire, okay? So then you're going to take your, now when you do, for example, when you do berries, you can add little leaves. Now you could do paste leaves like we've done on several other projects. You could use things like on the wedding foliage mold, the little boxwood. But you can also do this with floral tape. Now you're going to take pieces of floral tape, which are the floral tape here, using half width green floral tape, and just want to cut these pieces again about 25 millimeters, about 1 inch. Okay, so doesn't matter if it's a little bit longer. And then what you can do there is you can take a piece of floral tape, all right, and then at that point there, so about 5 centimeters down, you can just tape the floral tape in. Okay, we're going to go down about another 25 millimeters, about 1 inch. Going to come up and then down. Okay, and then you can take another one of those, for single ones, all right? So you just tape that in like that, come down, another about 25 millimeters, up, down, all right? Now this is like we do carnations and flowers, like, so you see this, you've got these like little pieces. Now what you then do is you're going to just twist that with your fingers a couple of times, so that makes like almost the stem of the leaf shape, all right? So you see here, you're going to go 1, 2, about 3 times. So you see it's actually, you've made like a little tiny stem. And then all you do is you're going to just cut that to a little leaf shape. All right, so you're just going to cut it to a little leaf shape. And then you're just going to cut that to your little leaf shape there. All right, so that's just a way you can make, to add just a little bit green, and it's nice when you're doing things that sort of have an organic feel to that. So remember, you know, about 50 millimeters, all right, come past the end, and obviously that creates the branch, you go up and down, then you put in a leaf about 25 millimeters, another leaf 25 millimeters. Now at that point there, we're going, so that means your end of your branch, you see, is quite organic. It means that we can bend it as when we put it into the arrangement, so it sort of looks nice. And then what we're going to do is we're going to add the 2 extra wires. So we're going to add the 2 extra 22 gauge wires at this point. So this is going to make the stem a little stronger there. And then we will put in the grouping of 4 berries. All right, so just sort of like where they meet, just a little bit past there, you can just put those in. And then you can come down just a little way. So you see, you can put the berries in there as like a little cluster. All right, and then you can add, so then we can do, for example, if you wanted to do a couple of leaves, you can put in two of the pieces of green. All right, so those will go, just going to put those in, just tape those into place. And again, we're going to go down, and here you can sort of be quite, as I said, uneven, because you want this to be a little bit like, think of like the branch that we've done in some of the projects. You see, and then you can just take your leaves, so you just twist them, and then we're going to just cut those, so just cut them to a basic leaf shape. You don't have to do this, obviously, but when you have, as I said, certain things you might want to do, and especially if you were doing these berries, let's say, for example, for a wedding cake in the middle of summer, where you may make them in purple or lime green or an accent color, this is a nice way to sort of create that effect. All right, so you see how we're going to go, and then I'm going to put in the group of 5. So we put the group of 5 in here. So you put those in, again, going to come down, up, down, and you can put some, you see how this sort of the group is coming together. Remember, we're just going to take some, so 25, 30 millimeters, you know, just cut this as half width tape, and then we can put another couple of leaves in here. So you could do another. So you see, then you're just going to put, if you want to stagger them, you can put 1 in, then you can down, up, down, and then you can put the other the other leaf in here. So you just taping those in. And then remember, so you take the leaf and then where it joins, you twist it 3 times. So you see, that will make almost like the leaf, the little stem of the leaf. You think of like the wire of, say, a rose leaf. Because when I do, as I say, carnations, you can use this technique for the little leaves of the carnations. So it's something I've done actually for many, many years as a sort of way to add a little bit of foliage. But you see how this is going to get this very nice look for the branch, okay? And then we're just continuing now. So just go down, up, down. So I'm about half the length of the first wire, okay? But this was the first 20 gauge wire. So you see I'm about, so the last berry will be about halfway down. Obviously you've got an extension because we've added those extra wires there. And then this will be the last screw pin that we're going to put in. Going to tape that down. Now, also when you're putting, you know, we've got 7 wires have gone in there from those berries, so you get like a little bit of lump, and that's where you can just go around just a few extra times on the spot with your floral tape, and what that will do, that will sort of naturally just fill in the gap, and then you can put in like one. I'm just going to put 1 extra leaf in. Now the number of leaves you put in is totally up to you, and also you can do this without the floral tape. I'm just trying to show you different techniques on these different projects. So 1, 2, 3. And then you're going to just twist that. Cut that to a simple leaf shape. All right, so as I said, we're about halfway down we're about approximately halfway down where you put those berries in, down that first full length wire, okay? And then the rest of this you can just tape, just like I've just done on the rose hip, you can just tape this, because most of this will be disappeared in the arrangement in the container, or as I said, will just be excess. So we've left everything on full length wires to enable us to be able to do that. All right, and then you're going to, then with your wire cutters or scissors, we're going to just texture it like we have done before on pine needles and other things. So we're just gonna do a little texture on here. So that just gives a little bit of, and I'm just gonna add some extra dust to this. So I'm just gonna get my dust, and make sure that you open these up, because when we glaze them in a moment, we want to make sure they're not touching each other when you glaze them. So I'm going to come back and just show you the dusting powders on this. Now you can also use your companion tool. On your finger, you can put a little central vein, or also you can do that onto the pad as well. But usually I just do this on my fingers. So you can just do like a little vein. So you see I'm just going to do a little vein, and it just sort of makes the leaf look a little bit more natural looking. So you're just going to use your, and then here the top, and then a little tiny one here, like that. All right, so that's going to give you your, will give you your little leaves. All right. But as I said, you could make those, of course, like in the English boxwood mold. That would work very well as well. And then I'm going to, just like we have just done on the rose hip. So I'm going to take some brown dusting powder. And I'm just going to put just a little bit of brown, you know, sort of here and there on the stem. just the base of the, and just a little bit on the branch, because then you just get a little bit of tonal color there. All right. And then this is going to be steamed. So again, steamed or spray with hairspray. They're pretty much the same as we did the base of the rose hips. But the investment of time in that is pretty small for quite a lot of impact. All right, so berries are a really good way. But as I said, when we think about, like, for example, a bride who comes to you and says, oh, I'm having purple as an accent color in my wedding. The bridesmaids are going to be purple, or maybe purple sashes on the dresses, and some purple flowers. It can be dependent, or orange or coral things. So basically what you can do is you can take you can make berries like this, or like the other ones I've shown you in the winter foliage mold, and then that's a really nice way of adding accent. All right, so this could be purple, it could be lime green, it could be orange, so it doesn't necessarily have to be sort of autumn colors. But it's a really good way to sort of bring in an accent color. All right, and so you steam them, that's going to set the color, and then we're again going to take the glaze and with the glaze I'm going to brush over the berry. So I'm going to brush that over the berry. You can put this in a little pot, and then again making sure that you brush that all over the berry, but make sure they're not touching each other. Just do this last one and then I'm going to finish off. But you see that purple is going to give it like a highlight of color, so you're going to get that little accent color. So a really nice way to finish, as I said, the berries off. And I'm just going to now finish these off, and then I'll be right back to show them finished. So here you can see the finished berries. Now you need to wait for the glaze to dry. The confectioner's glaze takes longer to dry than, for example, the nail polish or the Sculpey product would take. But then, of course, once they're dry, you can put them back together a little bit. But just sort of when you glaze and want to do it individually. But you can see the sort of lovely color, and you have that nice purple hue. And again, we're going to just sort of bend the end of the wire because it's a little bit longer than we need. So you have the wire just bent a little bit. And so when you put this into your styrofoam block, it's not going to be top heavy. All right, so just be real careful with weight distribution because these are long and heavy, and as I said, so that's why I've bent the wires. Okay, so what we're going to do is for the berries, which were done in the U mold. All right, we're going to now you have in your instructions, you've got the groupings. So we have 1 small, 2 small, 2 small, and a large, 3 large, 3 large, 2 small, 2 large. And a little bit like how we do cherry blossoms and things, you just group these into sort of groupings. Now we're going to, and you can dust them first and then organize them, but I've just got 2 to show you here. So what you're going to do is going to use some orange, and we're doing these a bit like a pyracantha sort of color. I'm going to brush from the bottom, so about sort of halfway around I'm going to put some orange. So I'm going to do some sort of orange around the, so just come from the bottom, coming up here. All right, and then we're going to put a little bit of red, so you can just use a little bit of red just at the bottom. So just like when we did the Chinese lantern last month, it's going to just give you like a little bit of darker color onto there. Okay, so that's the dust. And next we're going to take some, now you can either use, as we did for the conker, you can use brown dusting powder mixed with vodka, okay? Or if you have some gel color gives you a little bit more working time, especially when you're doing quite a few things like this. So you can use a little bit of brown gel color, a little bit of vodka. Obviously you can use inks for air drying clay as well. Going to just mix that up. Not too dark. All right, and what we're going to do, I'm going to use the brown. Now I'm using a nail art brush. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to just paint around the ring. So you're just going to paint that like a little ring around there. Okay. And then you're going to, on the bottom of each one, you're going to paint like 5 little lines, like almost like a little calyx. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, so you're just going to put a little bit of brown on there. So just show that again. So you're just going to go around the inside of the ring. If you get a little bit on the top, just use your finger and just do that and it will just come off, all right? And then you're just going to brush from the bottom. You're just doing like almost like 5 little lines. This doesn't have to be perfect because it's going to have that sort of effect of a sort of a translucent sort of, I don't know what they got there. Center one on there. This could also be done with a marker as well. Could use a chocolate brown marker. So there's lots of different ways of doing these things. But, you know, painting calyxes is a way you can emulate calyxes, like when we do, for example, the baby's breath, the gypsophilia, I use the green food art pen, but you could also do that with a brush as well. And then you're going to take the little groupings, and we're going to put them together. So obviously you have 1, you have 2. So just like we did the other berries. So you have 1 small, 2 small, and then you have 1 small, 2 small and 1 large. And then 3 large, 3 large, and then the last one is 2 small and 2 large, all right? And because you can have any combination, so don't worry if you mess up, just as we divide it up like we would cherry blossom. So next step is going to be to put these into a branch. Now this one we have again 3 22 gauge wires. So all I'm going to do here is going to tape the small single bud to the top. I'm not making the branch here, I'm just going to do them straight onto here. And then you're going to go again up and down. Just when you get to that, when you come back up to the top of that single, just tape up a little bit onto it. So when you break that off, you see how it will almost taper, all right? So it's not too severe. And then you're just gonna put your next ones, so just down, and 3. All right, at that point, I'm gonna add the 2 extra wires here. And of course, you could totally, if you're doing this again, you could totally do this one with leaves like I showed on the other one, but I wanted to just show you some different sort of techniques. So we're just going to tape that in. And then here, just going to stagger this. Now these will be bent over, so these are going to sort of trail down almost. So we're going to come down, up, and down. And then you're going to put in another group of 3. Another group of 3. Remember, when you have the sort of, you add that group in, if it's a little thicker, just go around a couple of times to sort of fill that in. Down, up and down. And then finally the group of 4, all right? So and again, you can see that that's about halfway of the single wire, the first wire that you put on. Just come around there a few times. Come to about halfway down that first wire. This is the sort of the initial wire we did, going up and then coming down. And then the end half of the wire, you can just do that as a single, just a single, because most of this you won't see, all right? When you come to put this together, I mean, if you were ever doing a project like this at home or on your own, you sometimes, you know, just have to sort of plan on the wire. It's always better, I always tell my students, it's better to have the wire too long than too short, because you can always cut the wire, but also, of course, you can also add to the wire as well. Now, these are going to all, we want these to sort of bend down because they're all going to sort of actually sort of curl down. So they sort of have that nice sort of curled look that a lot of the berries have. All right, so you get the sort of the grouping of berries. And then we're going to, again, just going to take a little bit of brown on there. Just a little bit of brown on the floral tape just to sort of brighten it up a little bit. The top half, just give it a little bit of shade in. And then we're going to, this will also be steamed all over. And then we're going to glaze these. So this will be exactly the same as the previous berry. So I'm just going to steam it, then put the glaze on. Remember, the steam or the hairspray in the case of air drying clay is going to set the berry. Oh, forgot the texture. You can also do a little bit of texture on here as well. It gives just a little bit of texture so that you get the texture on your, like that looks like the bark, okay? And then you're just going to just rotate that in a steam, or we'll spray that with a hairspray. And then we're going to, you know, when you're working with the glaze, just make sure that you've got the, you know, have a napkin down and work on a sort of a covered surface in there. So I'm just going to just brush the glaze on there. You see again, you'll have that lovely, those lovely sort of colors on there. Now, once these are dry, you can also move them around, meaning that, you know, if you want to, if you have two orange, dark orange together, you can move them to get a little bit of look to them. So I'm just going to finish this off and I'll show you the finished effect. So here we've glazed the berries. Now, of course, they will be put closer to each other in more like groupings. They just have to be put apart for glazing. So you can just glaze them. And then again, you can just bend your wire a little bit and then that can go into your block. And of course, when we actually put the berries in the arrangement, we're going to bend them to make them look a little bit more organic and natural looking. But this is another type of berry. So here we have the finished project from the two parts of the rose hips, the three beautiful rose hips ready to go in our arrangement. We have obviously the simple berry, which I showed you how to add little leaves to that. It's got the sort of purple accent on it. And then finally, the berries made in the winter foliage mold in the yew berry mold. Remember, as I said, these will be sort of grouped a little bit different when we actually put them in. It's still sticky, all right? So you have to wait for them to dry. So this is the end of this particular lesson. So I hope you've enjoyed this next part of our foliage, our autumn foliage project. In the last two parts, which are coming up next, is going to be to show you how to make grasses. We're going to do wild oats, quaking grass, also honesty, and I'm going to show you also how to do cat's tails or bulrushes. So next time, sweet wishes, bye!